Welcome to Injustice for All. Today I am joined by Delaware County Prosecuting Attorney Carol O'Brien, Delaware County Sheriff Russell Martin, and from the Delaware General Health District, Jackie Bain. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You know, we have a really serious issue to talk about today, teen driving. And Jackie, you're here because you're part of the Safe Delaware County Coalition as well. And they've just recently launched an initiative. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, the initiative is basically aimed at teen occupant protection, because what most people don't realize is that the threat is not just to teen drivers in our county and everywhere, but the threat to driving motor vehicles is one that also impacts passengers. In the last 10 years, we've lost 23 young people in motor vehicle crashes from our county. And in the last 3 years, about half of those have been passengers. So it's something that is definitely the leading cause of death for our young people in our county.
And Sheriff, what are your men and women seeing on the roads as far as teen driving goes and teen crashes?
Well, one of the things that really caught my attention when we looked at the data provided through the Ohio State Patrol was that we've had over 1,000 injury crashes with teens in the last 5 years, and that's a pretty significant number.
Yeah.
So obviously, while we want to reduce the fatalities, we also want to really reduce those injury crashes. And the injuries, as Jackie's alluded to, not just to the teen drivers, but to anybody else they might hit in a crash. So really, the overall intent on this is to kind of challenge and educate and intervene, remind our teens about the importance of driving and being attentive while they're driving.
And Carol, have you seen this kind of action as far as come all the way through to the courts?
It has. Mainly those will go through if the teen is a driver, anyone under the age of 18 goes through the juvenile court system. So our prosecutors down there have handled those. But we also see the 18 and 19-year-olds. And I have a case particularly that stands out in mind. A young 19-year-old, a young man, was driving under the influence, caused a crash and severely injured another driver, and he went to prison.
Yeah.
And that's devastating. I mean, the accident itself the crash itself is devastating, but then the fact that he went to prison.
Yeah, more than ruined his life, definitely. It's tragic in how it ripples through a community and through the families. Just destroys whole families and communities when something like that happens, whether or not the actual driver is dying. I know, Sheriff Martin, you were talking about some of the statistics from the OSP, and when you were talking about over 1,000 crashes, it's interesting to realize that of all of the licensed drivers in Delaware County, only 5% of them are actually teen drivers, yet that 5% represents 29% of the involvement with crashes. Of all the crashes, 29% of them involve that 5% of drivers. So it's not that they're bad drivers, and in the case of that 19-year-old, he was impaired, but the majority of what we're seeing when we look at trends are these crashes are happening because of inexperience. So when we look at traffic crashes and preventing them, we're going to look at enforcement first. That usually has the most impact on people is enforcement in preventing them. Yeah. And we're doing a good job. Like Carol said, they do go through the juvenile traffic court system. And in 2017, we had an all-time high of 972 citations.
Wow.
So our law enforcement is doing a good job at getting to those mistakes these young drivers are making before they have serious injury, accidents, or deaths. But that combined with the engineering trying to keep up with our suburban development here in our county, as we know we're growing leaps and bounds always in a good way.
Yeah.
We have one other prerogative, and that's to look at it from an education point of view. And we needed a way to really start saturating our young people and their parents with those positive messages, because studies say that, that saturation of good messaging drives good behavior, and that's where the portal came. the portal came into play. We went to Tennessee Technical Institute, and they utilize this system in the whole state of Tennessee to engage the high schools with one another to implement activities that are evidence-based, that we vetted, and they can easily implement into their school system without disrupting curriculum, without disrupting school schedules. And that's what we have launched here in Delaware County, and we're very excited about it because we already have 11 schools engaged in that. And thanks to the sheriff, a lot of our deputies, our school resource officers, are really getting into the act here and getting a little competitive spirit going to drive some of our activities.
So is it all run through the schools at this point?
Pretty much. The portal is for the schools specifically. So the schools and any students on behalf of their schools can submit pictures or videos of positive prevention activities that they're doing. And this can be driving, or this can also be drug or alcohol related prevention, messaging, and activities. It could be a selfie with their friends showing that they're doing the right thing, and they submit it with a
Preferably
picture.
not while driving.
No,
Yes.
not while driving. Exactly. Or it could be a school assembly, or a high school classroom presentation, or something that the SROs are putting on, like leading a cops club like they do at Delaware Hayes High School. And those things score points and provide incentives towards an awards program. At the end of the year, we'll be recognizing those schools for their efforts, and a grand winner, we hope. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you find that, or I guess since you've just recently launched, but talking about it and getting the kids engaged in talking about it, other than all of a sudden they hear after prom that so-and-so had an accident and is dead, talking about it ahead of time is really helping make that more aware for the kids as well as the adults?
Yes, definitely. Prevention is 9/10 of the effort that we need to put into it. The effort after the fact does not change the consequences that those teens have suffered and their families have. We definitely are putting all our eggs in the prevention basket, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things that's been a positive consequence of this initiative is that the school resource officers from around the county, including the city and the county school resource, have gathered together to look at what they're doing in the schools. And they're sharing information, they're sharing programs, and there's been some work that's been had already to this point, but it's kind of been independent of each other. So this particular outreach will force those school resource officers to get together, share those best practices, work in concert with the health department and with the state highway patrol, so that we're being much more intentional and much more strategic in educating those students.
So what grades are you starting with?
We're looking at basically our freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior classes that just before driving age and driving age. One thing that a lot of parents don't really realize, and I just came to light when I was talking with a group of parents last week, was that many of them that are just getting into 9th grade, they're not driving yet, and they think they don't need to worry about it. But those children are actually carpooling with other drivers. And so because their children who's 14 hasn't been through the graduated driver's licensing law yet, they haven't taken driver's education, they don't realize that a new driver in the first 6 months of licensure, it's illegal for them to have more than one passenger other than a family member. And they're putting their child in a car, carpooling with many other children, and actually not only breaking the law, but they're putting their children in jeopardy, and they don't realize how dangerous it is for passengers. I have personally, through the health department, done observational surveys of young people leaving high school, whether they're using their seatbelts or not. And our drivers are very good. They're above the national average of about 75%. They are wearing their seatbelt if they're driving, but their passengers are not. I find it's about 50% compliance. And that's really alarming because I haven't talked to a parent yet who doesn't believe that their kid buckles up every time. And that really isn't the case. Once they get together, they're more focused on other things.
Sure. And do you find that the distracted driving that we all hear about is really one of the big areas that causes some of these crashes, when they all get together and they're talking and having a
Absolutely,
good time
Michelle.
in the car and
Absolutely. I laugh, not laugh, but amused that basically the most distracting thing to a teenager is another teenager.
Yeah.
Maybe themselves, actually. They truly have some things that go on with chemical releases of serotonin in the brain just by their mere interactions with another. They are truly wired to be social with one another, and that is what they pay attention to most. It's not by any fault. It can be the most intelligent of child. It's just the way their brains are developed until they reach maturity at about 25 years old.
Yeah, I think, as we target this particular demographic, it's because we've seen an inordinate amount of crashes despite their the size of their population. And, Jackie's alluded to over 900 traffic citations issued in the last year to juveniles. We've been, again, very intentional about that, and our sergeants have been out there actually directing the patrol division on where to enforce and what to enforce in the intent, too, with the effort of reducing these crashes and, again, bring it to the forefront that these are young drivers, less experienced, going through changes in life, and they just need to pay attention to what they're doing and work on their skills and hone their driving to make them safe commuters on the road.
And I just want to throw out there that while we're talking about teen drivers as adults, we have to be aware of our behavior.
yeah.
Because there are many times I'll be driving down the road and I'll see someone in the middle lane and they're swerving a little bit or they're slowing down and speeding up. Teens model after adults, and that adult is doing it, so why can't I? And I just think it's important to get out there that adults have a responsibility here too. It's not just talk the talk; it's walk the walk.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. And they truly do learn from us. All studies show that adults and parents in particular have the greatest influence on teen driving behavior. And even before they are in a position to sit in the front seat, say before they're 13, but they're sitting forward in their car seats, they're already absorbing the actions and the things that their parents are doing. And they're going to model those, even if it's only subconsciously. So we really do need to set the example, like Carol said. That's an excellent point.
What do you find, what messaging, I guess, would you give to parents just about to be aware of how to educate your teen when they're about to start driving?
Well, they need to take advantage of the resources that are out there. Many parents don't realize that there are a lot of resources to be had in helping them to teach their young people to drive. There's an app that's free called Driven, DRVN, which is great to take you through the curriculum and make sure that you're hitting the points in a logical order to spend that 50 hours of drive time that's required with your learning to drive youth. We're hoping, well, we actually aren't hoping, we're working on adding to the portal a parent resource button so that we'll have connections to things like that. Looking into defensive driving classes such as car control drills that happen after getting their license and after basic driver's licensing school. And just spending a lot of time with your kids, realizing that a driver who between 16 and 18 is a probationary driver. That means they are a student driver. Just because they have their license, they are students. And that this is something that even if you're not talking a lot with your young person, you need to be talking about driving because there's a lot they have to learn. There's a lot of things that come up in driving that parents need to share with their young people and help give them those insights until they learn them for themselves.
Yeah, that's a big piece of equipment. I don't know how many pounds, but a car, when you're putting them behind that wheel, and if they're not in control of that situation, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, I think we need to be reminded that driving's a privilege and not a right. And without editorializing too much, parents in this situation should be less focused on being friends and being more assertive as a parent, reminding good behavior, and as the county prosecutor has also alluded, in your own driving, because kids are watching how their parents drive and whether they're distracted or what they're doing. So parents play a significant role in this, and now with GPS and a lot of other functions, you can determine how fast your kids are driving, where they're going. There's technology to better inform parents, and I don't think that makes you a helicopter parent. I think it's a layer of accountability that can be added to keep these young drivers safe.
I just want to add for the parents out there, there is an app out there I know it's on the iPhone, that's Do Not Disturb While Driving. And it's perfect. Just turn that one on, and no phone calls, no texts. There's probably nothing that urgent that can't wait for that half an hour to an hour that you might be in the car and it can't wait.
Yeah, good thing. And the graduated driver's licensing law is important, and the laws that pertain to young people on using mobile devices. Parents need to make sure that they are very well informed about what the driving laws are that pertain to young people, because if they don't know what they are, they can't be enforcing them. And even though we don't like to be enforcing, like the sheriff said, we want to be friends more with as they become young adults, we have to realize that the best form of love a lot of times is going to be discipline, and being disciplined as a driver is very important to staying alive.
Yeah. So with this portal, what's the, so to speak, learning curve, if you will? How long will it take for someone to go through it?
Well, it's not exactly going through it. What it is, it's right now we have about 45 activities on there, and Carol's actually a speaker. You can get points for having Carol come in and talk to you.
Not as much as if the juvenile court judge speaks.
Oh, we are fixing that. We're fixing that. I don't know. It's around 300 points.
How many points if the sheriff speaks?
Well, we have to add the sheriff as an activity. I don't know. Maybe
too
we'll
can
ask
be an
Carol.
activity.
We'll have to ask Carol. But
299.
there you go. But there are currently 45. Some of them are from Students Against Destructive Decisions, from MAD. There's Impact Teen Drivers. AAA has quite a few things that they do with the schools. All of these things have been vetted to be evidence-based and beneficial to our young people by our coalition. It becomes a means for our coalition to make sure schools know what programs are out there and available to them. And it's a matter of as many of those activities as a school wants to do, they can. It's about scoring points. Currently, the leader, I think, is the Delaware Area Career Center with about 400 points. And that can change, though, and they could be out in the back depending if another school submits more points. So.
Jackie, did you note that the leader was from the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, or is that?
I did notice that.
Just...
I did notice that was Deputy Alverson, and he is a deputy sheriff with the sheriff's office.
Not that we're competitive or anything.
No,
we want everybody to succeed, but we do want the sheriff's office to stand out.
Yeah, we've got Owen Tangi Berlin right behind.
Good.
So
competition is good.
Yeah. So and it's friendly.
I'm thinking there was a challenge thrown out there by you, Sheriff.
I think there was. I think they've heeded that challenge already, and they're very. They're enthusiastic. They being the SROs, because I think this gives them a new avenue to engage with the students.
Yeah.
And instill some new prevention messages that they didn't before, and to get credit for the things they're already doing every day with our students in their health classes, their life skills classes, in the lunchroom every day. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, and that it's incentivized makes it good fun.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining me today.
Thank you.
Telling us all about this fantastic program, and good luck with the future of it. Can't wait to see when you add how many points the sheriff gets for his conversations.
I know. There you go. I appreciate that.
The real numbers will be determined when we're successful in reducing teen crashes and teen injury crashes, and that's what we're hoping to really compete for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having us and talking about this today.
Yeah.